we're talking about make sure my audio is good. Give me 1 second to audio check. Okay, I knew it. Why can't I okay, all right. I should be better off. All right, so here we are. Soul City. This sounds like it's fake. Like this is fake news. No, there's really a project called Soul City. Okay. This is during the 70s, 1970s. So give me 1 second. Okay. So Soul City, the founder, civil rights leader Floyd B. McKissick, as you see on the right. Okay. Former national director of CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, and an early proponent of black capitalism. So the purpose of Soul City was envisioned as a major black-led community that will provide economic opportunity, housing, and political power to FBAs. Okay, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let me just fix something real fast. Shoot, that wasn't it. Okay, I believe we're good. Just do a test. Yeah, we're good. Okay. All right. Okay. So once again, the purpose of Soul City was envisioned as a major Black-led community that would provide economic opportunity, housing, and political power to FBAs, foundational Black Americans, especially as a response to Northern urban decay and Southern segregation. Okay, now the funding, how was this going to happen? In 1972, Soul City received a federal urban development grant under President Richard Nixon's administration as part of the Urban Growth and New Community Development Act of 1970. It was one of 13 planned new towns. How many planned new towns? One of 13 to receive federal funding, and the only one led by foundational Black Americans. Okay, so the other 12 new towns were white folks. I mean, how much more assistance do they need? God damn. All right. They were not Jim Crow and locked out of wealth for 100 years, but 12 out of the 13 new planned towns, 12 were white people. The project was awarded approximately $14 million dollars in federal loan guarantees and grants, a significant sum of the time. The plan anticipated further investments totaling over $50 million dollars as the town developed. Okay. So it needed further investments. Okay. Now the location was rural Warren County, North Carolina, one of the poorest and most segregated counties in the South. It was chosen strategically to uplift the Black rural poor while building new infrastructure. Okay. Now, here are the challenges with this program. The project faced political opposition, uh-oh, especially from segregationists and some conservative media, who painted it as a black separatist, like those Muslims, those black Muslims. And so media painted this uh, city, this town, this planned town out of 1 out of 13. So this was no different than the other towns. But the media said this one is a black separatist town or misuse of taxpayer dollars. So the media, specifically conservative media, sounds like red, okay, sounds like Republicans were undermining what was going on in North Carolina with this funding, with this grant, okay, under the Richard Nixon administration. What else? Economic downturns and slow industrial investments hindered growth. By 1979, funding was cut and the town failed to meet its population or economic goals. The federal government eventually foreclosed on some parts of the project. However, it left behind some lasting infrastructure, including a medical center and road development in the region. Okay, sounds like a start for something. Let's see. Okay, so just to summarize, Soul City was built with federal grant support specifically meant to create a Black-led, economically independent community. It was a landmark moment in the federal government funding a Black economic vision, though it ultimately fell short of its transformative ambitions due to political, economic, and structural barriers. Okay, so uh, So there were other federally funded new towns. Soul City was established in 1970, but funded in 1972. You had, and that's in North Carolina. You had the Woodlands, which is in Texas. That's 1974, and Columbia, Maryland, 1967. Okay, so founder of Soul City, Floyd McKissick, Black civil rights leader. Okay, the Woodlands, Texas. The founder was George Mitchell, white oil tycoon. Okay, that's who's backing that one. And you got Columbia, Maryland, James Rose or James Rouse, white developer, philanthropist. Okay, so the goal of Soul City was empower FBA foundational Black Americans in rural South. And well, in Woodlands, Texas, that oil tycoon, the goal was master plan suburb for Houston elites. And then Columbia, Maryland, right? Racially integrated city of the future. So Soul City got federal funding, 14 million in grants and loans. The Woodlands got over $50 million in loans and guarantees. And Columbia got private funding, no large federal grant. Okay, so the population goal for Soul City was 50,000. The population for the Woodlands was 150,000 plus, and the project goal for Columbia, Maryland was over 100,000 people. So the outcome, what happened to these planned towns? Okay, so Soul City fell short due to politics and economics. How about the oil tycoon? Well, his plan went wildly successful now an affluent suburb. And then also in Columbia, Maryland, that was a successful model of planned integration. So two out of the three were successful, extremely successful. The one for Foundation of Black Americans failed due to lack of economics and white media bashing it. Okay. So the legacy of Soul City is a symbol of Black economic ambition. Uh, you got the Woodlands, it was wealthy suburb, and you got the Columbia, Maryland urban design case study. Okay, so most white-led or integrated towns received more support. Most white-led, not foundational black-led or integrated towns received more support, less scrutiny, and better access to industrial and corporate partnerships than Soul City. Despite its innovation, Soul City faced hostile media coverage, political sabotage, and systemic underinvestment. Okay, so Black economic vision requires political protection. Soul City was crushed not because of its goals, but due to political backlash and media manipulation. So it could have survived if the white man didn't make sure it was destroyed. Okay. Any modern Black led economic initiative must secure bipartisan allies, community buy in, and media defense against smear campaigns. Media defense. We have our own today. federal funding alone isn't enough. Although Soul City got federal money, it lacked private capital and strong industry partners. Today's efforts need a mix of public private partnerships plus black investor networks to avoid total dependence on unstable government aid. Narrative control is essential. White critics branded Soul City as black separatism, despite its being legally integrated. Modern efforts need control over messaging, storytelling, and defense against racial disinformation, especially online. It said, and defense against. That's why Foundational Black American Defensive Unit. We need defense. It says land use and ownership still matter. Soul City focused on rural land to build independence. That idea still holds value today in land trusts, eco villages, or black agricultural development. But rural land without scalable economic engines may limit impact. Urban proximity is often more viable for long term success. Black led institutions need exit strategies. Soul City's collapse shows the sustainability planning, succession, reinvestment, long term industries is key. Modern equivalents, whether crypto, fintech, or real estate projects, should include timeline, backup plans, and accountability frameworks. Anyway, modern parallels to Soul City, Black Wall Street Renaissance attempt to revive Tulsa-like hubs across the U.S., Freedom Georgia Initiative, Black families buying land to create a self-sufficient town in Georgia, a coin city, Senegal, Akon's ambitious smart city project, though facing its own challenges, Pan-African economic zones in Ghana, Rwanda, and other nations, echoing the Soul City spirit globally. All right. What you guys think so far? So remember those things they left behind when Soul City failed? Okay. What about the infrastructure? Did Soul City leave behind? So were we able to take advantage of the infrastructure that was left behind? Let's find out. Okay, so despite the project's collapse, Soul City left some real estate assets, or Soul City left some real assets behind. Soul City Medical Center opened 1977, upgraded water and sewage systems. These are the things that were left behind. Industrial park buildings, paved roads, sidewalks, and utility networks, planned housing lots, and partial presidential units. Okay. So these were real functional structures, not just paper plans. All right. So now the question got to be asked. So why didn't foundational Black Americans maintain or expand it? Well, for one, it had loss of ownership and federal foreclosure. When Soul City defaulted on loans due to low occupancy and political obstruction, the white man, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, foreclosed on much of the property, including the industrial park. Once HUD took over, once HUD took over, black local control was lost. HUD then sold much of the land and facilities to private, often white-owned developers in the 1980s and 1990s, sometimes at discounted prices. Disrespectful. So even though the infrastructure remained, it no longer belonged to the Black community that built it. Okay, so now lack of capital and institutional backing. After the federal government pulled the plug, no major Black banks, foundations, or HBCUs had the capital to take over or maintain Soul City's infrastructure. It needed millions in upkeep and expansion to succeed, not just in land, but in industry, recruitment, job creation, and schooling. This was during a time, late 70s, 80s, when Black America was still recovering from segregation, with little access to generational wealth or large scale financing options. The infrastructure was there, but the community had no access to the money or power needed to use it. What about number three? White backlash and regional isolation. The surrounding white political establishment in North Carolina and even within Warren County was largely hostile to Soul City from the beginning. After the project folded, local governments and counties did not offer support to build it up further. Some even saw it, some even saw its failure as vindication. Damn, they was waiting for it to fall. There were few incentives to help Black people reclaim or expand what was left. Institutional racism and neglect from surrounding governments helped bury the project. They wanted that thing to go. No legal mechanism for community ownership. Soul City didn't have a land trust, co-op, or any formal legal structure to pass ownership to the community once McKissick lost control. So even well-meaning Black entrepreneurs or families had no legal standing to manage the remaining infrastructure. Without a protected ownership model, the land and buildings were fair game for outside buyers. Sounds like gentrification to me. Okay. Black outmigration and economic trends. Many Black families had already left the rural South during the Great Migration and were hesitant to return without jobs. Soul City's failure coincided with the deindustrialization deindustrialization of the U.S. economy in the 1980s, making it hard to attract new factories or employers. So even with roads and buildings, there were no job magnets to sustain population growth. People don't just need homes, they need opportunity. So, in short, Black Americans or foundational Black Americans could not maintain Soul City's infrastructure because ownership reverted to the federal government. Wealth and capital were available to buy it back. White political resistance blocked local support. There was no protective structure like a land trust. Job opportunities dried up during the economic shift. Okay. So it was pretty much doomed. It was a doomed project. It was to just save face. But the other 12 did very well. Okay. Okay. Let's see what else we got here before we wrap it up. Okay. So for Soul City to have become a successful and long lasting. So let's say if they took it serious, let's say if they took it serious and it wasn't just a token, right? To act like they're trying. Hey, we tried. Let's assume that there was real hope in this. This is what needed to happen for it to be successful. They had to they needed five key pillars: sustainable funding, political protection from those wild conservatives, strategic economic planning, public support, and long-term governance structures. Below, below the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. They try to put us below. They try to keep us below the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. Sabotaging us. I mean, this is 1970s. Okay, so we're already starting from zero. And this country, man, we're talking about 1979. Okay, we are well into integration and we're still being attacked by white people. Okay, so number one, we needed massive and sustained capital investment. Initial grants were $14 million. That was far too small for building a functioning city of 50,000 plus people. So the money to start off, it was just a fantasy. It was a fantasy. The money they gave us to function, right, and hold 50,000 more people was a joke. Soul City needed long-term investment in affordable housing, public transportation, schools and training centers, industrial recruitment, health infrastructure. Okay, if it only completed one hospital, black banks, churches, and HBCUs, churches being a religious institution, or anything similar. It could be spiritual, whatever. But they were underfunded and couldn't supplement the lack of federal or private capital. A successful Soul City needed black controlled capital funds or serious buy-in from large private investors. Number two, real industry and job creation. Listen to this. Soul City failed to attract enough factories or employers. It needed anchor industries, e.g., manufacturing, logistics, food processing, a business incubator model to support Black entrepreneurs, government backed contracts like those that built white suburbs, equality. Without jobs, the people wouldn't come, and the city couldn't pay for itself. So it needed people, but it was unrealistic. Like I said, it was a token. Just to say, hey, look what we did. We tried. Number three, protected land ownership and legal autonomy. The city needed a land trust or cooperative model so that infrastructure and land cannot be seized or foreclosed on by the government. This was a failed project to start. Once HUD foreclosed on the land, black developers lost their hold. A black-led municipal charter or legal incorporation could have insulated it from sabotage. Media narrative is number four. Media narrative and political defense. They got their defense. That's why I say FBA defense. Everybody got defense. We forgot how important defense is. We can't just be attacking. We need some offense and defense. Anyway, it needed a media strategy to counter racist messaging. And that's pretty much what I do on my channel. My channel is called FBA Defensive Unit, and I had that name. I made that name because I wanted to defend our aims and goals and talking points, okay, and our image. So we needed a media strategy to counter racist messaging. Federal champions beyond Nixon, who later withdrew support. A so wow, the president turned his back on it. He had no faith in rehabilitating us or helping us level up. We also needed a civil rights coalition, including prominent black clergy, labor unions, and celebrities. Number five, population migration strategy. Soul City couldn't attract enough residents, in part because why we couldn't get people to come, the South was still hostile to black people. That's why the Great Migration even happened. The area was isolated and lacked amenities. A better strategy would be offer relocation grants or land credits to urban black families, partner with HBCUs to attract youth, include cultural centers and businesses that reflect black identity and pride. So these are some things they should have done. What worked and could have been expanded? The medical center was completed and still exists today. The physical infrastructure, roads, utility was well planned. The vision of black autonomy, black capitalism, black capitalism and empowerment was powerful and historic. Okay, so the bottom line is to succeed, Soul City needed the same ingredients that built successful white suburbs like Levittown or Columbia, Maryland. Massive public and private funding, supportive policy, a favorable press, not some hating conservatives, and job infrastructure. Instead, it got surveillance, smear campaigns, and economic sabotage. All right, that's Soul City. It was supposed to be a planned Black Wall Street and the white man post integration. We're not talking about the white man during Jim Crow. We're talking about the white man post integration. Sabotage what we had going on in the media, smear campaigns, uh, talking about we're black separatists. You dig. So even the president was like, it's too much pressure, too much, and he backed away and turned his back on us and the project. Okay. So the reason why I even felt the need to do this because I know a guy who, he like, he's one of those Thomas Sowell flunkies, those Larry Elder flunkies. And he was trying to use one of their talking points, black folks, we need to do things like some of the Africans are doing. That's another thing, guys. Don't let these haters and trolls compare a country to us. We're just citizens within a country. Okay, we don't have power to run this country. We're not in Congress. We're not in the House. We're not we're not in the Supreme Court. We're not the judiciary branch. You dig? And we're not the presidents, and we're not the majority of people. So people don't let them compare us as this small minority in the country to a whole country that has power, have control to a large degree over what they want to do in their country. Okay? If somebody leave a bank or a roads behind in their country, they got full power to take advantage of it. We don't because we never owned them from the beginning. HOD foreclosed on them. So anyway, he was acting like, hey, why don't the Foundation of Black Americans, why don't they just do the same thing, that some of the Africans should do, which is maintain what the colonial powers left behind, maintain what white supremacists left behind in our neighborhoods in America. And I said, man, it's not the same because again, like they are a whole country. We're just citizens, and our rights are being violated daily. So that was a really hard, uh, and that was a really hard example. Harsh. It was harsh and really just disrespectful. So that's why I explain it like that. To do it, nah, that's really bad. Really bad. Okay, so I kind of cooked him a little bit. He ran from this and started, just really be silly. This was like I'm invited in a chat, but he's not gonna call in. He's called him before on a different topic. He won't call in something like this and get cooked. All right, so let me know. I got some more stuff, man. I got some history for y'all, but let me know how y'all feel about Soul City. That's right, Unbiased Ron. Hit